Good evening, everyone. It's Thursday, July 21st, 2016. I'm James Levinson.
And I'm Ashley Ballone. Welcome to the Local Live.
Water bills are going up in the town of Mamaroneck.
A pilot project to add bike lanes in Larchmont is moving forward.
Race Week kicks off in Larchmont. Find out about this and other neighborhood news in our In the Media segment.
The LMC-TV is ready to recommend their consistency review on the Army Corps of Engineers flood mitigation plan.
And talking about flooding, giving us the latest steps moving forward with the Army Corps project, Village Manager Richard Slingerland and Chair of the Village Advisory Flood Mitigation Committee, Tony Gelber, will be answering your questions on our live roundtable discussion.
Tell us what you think. In person, over the phone, online. Watch and hear yourself on TV. You tell us, we air it. This is the Local Live.
The Town of Mamaroneck Board has approved a 2.5% increase in water bills effective immediately. A representative of the Westchester Joint Water Works explained that the increase was because of needed infrastructure improvements, which included a new computer system and improved security. An average home now paying $800 per year will have to pay $20 more due to increase.
The board also approved a resolution to end the sale of hunting and fishing licenses in the town. Town board members spoke about the excessive labor required to process the permits while pointing out how little revenue it was generated. It was also noted that there are many other options for getting a permit, including local shops and the state of New York.
Plans for pilot bike programs were finally affirmed at the Village of Larchmont Board of Trustees meeting this past Monday. The proposed project is expected to start in spring 2017 with talk of beginning the program on Larchmont Avenue using sharrows, a marking system which indicates where bikes should travel. The majority of these trustees and Larchmont families alike were supportive of the program, with residents pointing out with environmental and safety benefits that this trial program could bring.
The Harbor Coastal Zone Management Commission, or HCZMC, led by Sidney Goldstein, spent 5 hours and 10 minutes in session on Wednesday night.
The meeting was dedicated to going over the consistency review from the Army Corps of Engineers flood mitigation plan with the local waterfront rehabilitation plan, or the LWRP.
The project, which has been in development since the 1950s, is aimed at finding a solution to reduce flooding from Mamaroneck and Sheldrake rivers.
The project started to gain traction in March 2010 after the efforts of U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer, Congresswoman Nita Lowey, and State Senator George Latimer. The cost of the project was agreed to be 75% financed by the federal government and the remaining 25% coming from the New York Department, State of Conservation, the county, and the Village of Mamaroneck.
The LWRP is a document that contains 44 policies aiming to promote a balance between economic development and the preservation of our coastal resources.
The Army Corps flooded mitigation plan for Sheldrake and Mamaroneck rivers would have a direct impact on the residents of our community, the ecosystems, and surrounding waters. But before this project can move forward, it is mandatory that the HCZMC recommends whether the project is consistent with the LWRP. However, the Department of State performs the final consistency review.
During this meeting, the Army Corps presented the reasons why their plan is consistent with the LWRP. Residents were given opportunities to ask questions about the presentation.
What is consistent is that our plants are dredged with sewage and oiled water. Our homes are destroyed. Our property value has plummeted, while my insurance this year is $5,000 for flood. That's a lot of money.
And it's a hope. We're guaranteed we're still going to flood. That's consistent. I don't know how that's going to affect my flood insurance or this woman's flood insurance costs, as we still get the sewage in the basements and in the streets and on our lawns. That's not going to stop.
After questions from the public, a presentation from consultants hired by the HCZMC gave their recommendations.
Policies 12, 13, 23, 35, and 44. I think there's still insufficient information. And I simply don't agree with some of the findings. I think that the policies 9, 17, 19, 22, 33, and 38 are not consistent in the current form.
Regardless of the criticism towards the project, the Army Corps reaffirmed their position.
You know, we're not the Corps of Engineers in 1955 that dumps concrete and builds dams. We're trying to do the right job. But it has to make sense in the area that you're in. It has to make sense environmentally. It has to make sense economically. But most important, it has to make sense. The water has to get from here to there.
The meeting was finally over at 12:40 a.m., and the decision did not yield a yes or a no. HCZMC Chair Sidney Goldstein, in agreement with members of the board, used the word potentially consistent in their recommendations, with 7 policies pertaining to the environment and the ecosystem.
A number of policies are potentially consistent and would require additional documentation or mitigation. I would take that as meaning that in its current state, those policies are not consistent.
Here's Sam Master with what's trending in the media.
At the Mamaroneck train station, 3 people were arrested for assaulting a teenage boy on July 13th. Police said about 15 teens surrounded and assaulted the 15-year-old teenager. The victim, who was walking on Andrew Street, had his phone taken away and suffered minor injuries. To find out more, check out News 12. St. John's Episcopal Church in Larchmont sponsored a very successful furniture drive, hoping to gather some basic furnishings for refugee families arriving in Connecticut this summer. 67 local families arrived in SUVs and trucks, some of them borrowed or rented, filled with an array of gently used furniture. More than 350 pieces of furniture filled with lower level of the church. If you're interested in hearing more about the furniture drive, go to The Loop. This week, the Larchmont Yacht Club is holding its 118th annual Larchmont Race Week. In continuing the long-standing yachting tradition, sailors from more than 45 clubs will test their skills and enjoy the camaraderie. The event will bring over 700 juniors racing midweek, as well as Senior 1 design and cruising yachts on both weekends. If you want to learn more about this fun event, go to larchmontyc.org. Republican challenger Mitch Benson has filed the necessary signatures to force a primary in the race for Westchester District Attorney. Benson filed 2,800 signatures, which is 800 more than he needed to get on the primary ballot. He hopes to challenge the favorite GOP leader, Bruce Bendich. To read more about the race for Westchester District Attorney, check out LOHUD. Frankie and Finici's Pizza recently launched a new tap room which offers a rotating list of 30 craft beers and wines on tap. When customers arrive, they get a card with a chip in it, and after the card is authorized by a staff member, they can choose the brew of their choice, pour, and enjoy. They hope this will take their restaurant to a new level. For those beer and wine aficionados, more details can be found at lohud.com or visit Frankie and Finucci's on Mamaroneck Avenue yourself. TripAdvisor recently published a list of the best dessert places in Westchester with ratings based on the number of positive reviews. Larchmont and Mamaroneck had 3 dessert places among the top contenders. These included Array Gourmet in Larchmont, which serves crepes, waffles, and other treats, as well as heartier food. Bradley's Desserts and Catering, also in Larchmont, known for its chocolate cakes, croissants, brownies, and muffins. And Cherry Tree Frozen Yogurt on Mamaroneck Avenue, which serves a large variety of frozen yogurt and toppings. To find out more about more dessert places in Westchester, go to The Patch. I'm Sam Master, and this is what was trending in the media. See you next week.
Up next, we have our local trivia question, and stay tuned for tonight's roundtable. Join the conversation with Village of Mamaroneck Manager Richard Slingerland and Tony Gelber, Chair of Village of Mamaroneck Advisory Flooding Committee, as we discuss the latest on the flooding mitigation plan in Mamaroneck.
Welcome to the Roundtable. I'm Maura Carlin. Tonight's topic is flooding in the Village of Mamaroneck and the status of the proposal by the United States Army Corps of Engineers. As always, you can join the conversation, email, call, or tweet to the contact information is on your screen. As you heard earlier, the Mamaroneck Village Harbor and Coastal Zone Management Commission, or HCZMC, heard presentations last night from the Army Corps of Engineers and experts for the village and the commission before voting on whether the plan is consistent with the Local Waterfront Revitalization Program, or LWRP. The answer? It's potentially consistent. Monday night, July 25th, the Village Board of Trustees will meet to discuss the plan. What will it do? Well, joining me tonight are Village Manager Richard Slingerland and Chair of the Village Advisory Flood Mitigation Committee, Tony Gelber. They're here to explain where things stand, what it all means, and what is next. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. You were there last night. Can you explain what happened?
Well, first of all, it was a very long night.
Yes. We heard it ended at 12:40.
Correct. There was a very thorough review. The Harbor Coastal Commission had and the village had hired their consultants, and the Army Corps brought in a team, I think, of about 8 people to explain everything and go through the consistency review. So at the end of the night, the Harbor Coastal Commission found that there were certain policies, I believe there were 6 or 7, that they said would be potentially consistent with the local waterfront revitalization plan. And those are the comments they're going to send up to the Department of State. The Department of State makes the final decision and recommendation on consistency, but they're going to weigh very heavily our local comments. So we have HCZMC last night, and then the Board of Trustees this coming Monday.
Wait, let me backtrack for 1 second. You
Sure.
said there are 7 policies that they found to be potentially consistent.
Correct.
Does that mean the others are consistent or are not consistent? Because I assume there's at least 44 policies.
Well, there were 2 different levels of review. The last time we had a review, I believe it was in March or April, the Harbor Coastal Commission had given a comment back to the Department of State that they felt that the review of the policies was inconsistent, they didn't have adequate information, and they also felt that the Army Corps didn't review the village's local waterfront plan. And they felt that the state needed to tell the Army Corps, come back and review it based on Mamaroneck's plan, which the Army Corps did and resubmitted.
Okay, so there are just these 7, but what does potentially consistent mean? We heard when we listened to the story, Mr. Nuringer, I think, say potentially consistent means probably not consistent. I think those were his words.
Well, not consistent in their current form. I read it, or I interpret it as, with adjustments and changes and improvements and redirection, the plan would be more consistent with the village's local plan. And that's one of the things that everybody's really been trying to convey. This plan is really just a high-level study. It's looked at the problem that we know has been going on for over 100 years. We've had flooding in Mamaroneck forever. This is saying these are the directions, and these are the lowest cost, highest efficiency or effective improvements that we can implement. And there's things that the Army Corps can do, and there's things that the Army Corps can't do that either the village or the other entities, we'd have to look for grants and other things to accomplish some of the other projects or project aspects that the Harbor Coastal Commission and the community would like to see.
So there's this meeting this coming Monday for
Correct.
the Board of Trustees. What's that for?
The Board of Trustees will also be making comments up to the Department of State. So we're reviewing the reports that we received from our consultants, most notably Chase & Associates, and we're going to be working to prepare a resolution and memorandum from the board to the Department of State.
Maura, can I add
Absolutely,
a little bit here?
Tony.
Okay. So, as you know, and I don't remember if I said this the last time we were here, but we came up with this kind of idea of what would be the best plan for Mamaroneck. So when I'm doing my emails and stuff, I've been capitalizing best, right? And then we came up with this idea of what would a win-win-win plan be, and what are the 3 wins, right? Well, the first is flooding, right? We all think we need flood control, so that's number 1. The second is, if you remember, there were problems that people felt the walls were going to be either too high and or too ugly, and we felt that would be culturally inappropriate for our village. So we felt we needed to get that under control. And the third is really this LWP, I call it kind of environmental stuff. Could we have a good environmental impact with this plan? And what we found a couple of months ago was that it was kind of like the environmentalists arguing against the people that wanted flood control. So with this win-win thing, we said, could we get all 3 to work together? And so we've been promoting that, And I really want to say that I was really ecstatic last night that people were very respectful. They sort of understood that we do need flooding and we're trying to work together. And so at the end of the night, what is potentially consistent, to me, we made a lot of progress that even the things that the HZCM still feel need tweaking, they feel that if we work with the Corps and put some kind of contingencies or agreements on those things, they'll be consistent. So we can move from this potentially consistent to consistent with a little bit more work. And the other thing that I think we all realize that this is a process, right? It's not like it happens overnight. And so we've been working at this for months, and we'll have to do a little more work. But I think we're almost there with a plan that looks like most of us can live with. Now, there's going to be certain individuals, and we could talk about this later, with easements and stuff that still might be problematic, but we made a lot of progress so far this year.
Okay. Now, I noticed, because I did watch part of the meeting.
Sure.
There were a number of consultants.
Yes.
You mentioned one that was the village's consultant?
Well, they're all the village's consultants.
Okay.
Creative Habitat and Sven Hoger are the regular consultants and environmental advisors that support the Harbor Coastal Commission. The Harbor Coastal Commission also wanted to bring back Paul Rubin and HydroQuest, who had reviewed the plan earlier this year. And since we've been using the professional services of Chase & Associates on other projects, the board felt that they would be very helpful to do a more...
When you say the board, which board?
The Board of Trustees.
Okay.
So we had hired them and offered to have them serve both the Board of Trustees and the Harbor Coastal Commission before the study was all done. But the Harbor Coastal Commission still wanted Mr. Rubin, so we had all three working on this project.
Somebody asked me, who's paying for all this? And
The
how
village.
much does it cost?
The village.
And that's a lot of consultants.
Yeah. But keep in mind, this is a major project. We're talking about a project that could potentially cost $72 million. The study itself cost $8 million, and the village didn't have to pay a penny of it, although we're spending time, we're spending consultant support time.
Right.
You know, it might be $20,000 or $30,000 all told in this one instance, but there's a lot of other big picture things that we're looking at. So
Another question that has come up, people have said that the village doesn't really get a vote. Have you heard that before?
I haven't heard that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Well,
so you're saying the village, like the commission, is entitled or supposed to give their opinion to the Department of State?
Anybody can make their opinion to the Department of State.
Okay.
So the Harbor Coastal Commission has given their comments and opinion. The Board of Trustees can give their comments and opinion.
But it's not required.
It's not required. But since they're the elected board representing the entire village of Mamaroneck, the Department of State is going to, I think, consider very strongly their comments.
Do you guys want to give an overview of what the plan is as it now stands?
Sure, Maura. One of the things that I think we felt from the beginning of this year was that people were asking questions and questions. Every flood meeting we had, people came and we had a lot of questions we couldn't answer. And between the flood committee and then we started meeting jointly with HDCMC and Rich, we felt that we needed another meeting with the Army Corps. So the Army Corps didn't want to do a public meeting, but we went to sort of a semi-public meeting with the Board of Trustees, FMAC, and AZMC. I think it was May 25th in Manhattan. And at that meeting, I think we got a lot. I think we all felt better that we understood what was going to happen more clearly. And I'm just going to put a few things on the table. Some of the major sticking points that we weren't sure were being addressed were the we call it the bottleneck in Columbus Park, right? So there's a couple of S-turns, there's the Halstead Avenue Bridge, there's the Anita Lane Bridge, and then there's the Ward Avenue Bridge, right? And so at the meeting, what we found out for sure was they are putting a tunnel under the commuter parking lot on the north side of the train station. They are going to deepen the channel under the Halstead Avenue Bridge, right? So the cost to renew the Halstead Avenue Bridge is about $20 million. So what they're saying is that they're going to lower the channel about 4 feet rather than raising the bridge, right? There was a huge outcry because Anita Lane has this wing wall, which comes, rather than going out, what you would expect it to do, it comes in, right? And it blocks probably about 30% of the flow. And they didn't have that in the plan. So they agreed they would address that wing wall. And just as a side, Peggy Jackson, who was the former chair, has been hounding the county because they at one point promised to help fund that. So she's finally gotten an answer from them that they're starting to kind of come back into the equation also. So that's great. And then the Ward Avenue Bridge was a lot of discussion about taking it out because even though the Ward Avenue Bridge is high, it's narrow, right? And so it causes a blockage. So the Army Corps agreed to look at that again. So that's kind of some of the major sticking points. The other thing is that when you looked at the walls, right, in North Adams, Massachusetts, the walls are probably 20 feet above everything. The Army Corps said that if you're standing on any bank of the river, the wall will be no higher than 6 to 12 inches above that bank. So yes, you're also going to see walls where it's holding back dirt and stuff, but they're not going to put these big walls all over this. We are going to have walls, and we have walls now. Many of the WPA walls are all throughout these rivers. So we clarified what's happening with the bridges, how we're getting more flow through, the ugliness and the height of the walls, right? And then I guess the other major problem that people expressed was this whole amount of how many easements are going to be needed for the project, right? And this is still, I think, going to be probably one of the most controversial issues because fundamentally this project is widening the channel. When you widen the channel, you're going to have to take people's property, right? So the Army was very clear that they have a process, a standard process. And in response to that meeting, Rich sent out 2 letters to the community. One was a general letter, which everybody should have gotten this week, and the second was a letter just to the property owners that we think may be affected, right? And so those property owners got this letter, and basically the Army Corps' process is that they get a couple of adjusters who go out, talk to the people, and negotiate a fair value for the property. So is it going to be perfect? No, but all the property owners have been notified, and there'll be this process that they have to go through. There will be some easements, both permanent, which means the land will be used for the flood, and temporary, where they're going to need it for construction. So I think that we got a lot of answers, and I think I think everybody felt much better after that meeting. That was a plan we can live with.
Was that in response to I think it was 216 comments?
275.
75 comments in this packet, and they answered a lot of them.
Right, and that came out, so at the meeting, the Corps promised to respond in about a month, and which we did. We got that relatively recently, and I think Rich can tell you better than I, but a lot of these documents are posted on the website, on the village website.
So the most recent question and answer document is posted both on the village website and on the Army Corps website, and that's all available. And just to talk about what Tony was talking about in terms of the look of the walls, instead of having a sheer rock wall or sheer concrete wall that looks like the Cross Bronx Expressway, we can have decorative rock walls that are what's called pressed concrete. It'll look more like a natural rock wall. And that's the kind of thing that we can do to make the project fit better with Mamaroneck. Exactly.
Are there open issues from these questions still?
A lot of them have been answered. Some of the big questions that came up: will we be replacing the Ward Avenue Bridge? And the Army Corps said last night they've all but finalized that they're looking to put the replacement back in the project. We're going to leave in the removal and replacement of the Waverly Avenue Bridge, but the town that may need to be taken care of sooner because the condition of the bridge is declining very rapidly. We're looking to do improvements to have bigger trees and plantings and landscaping to make it more acceptable. And finally, I think river access, fishing, walking, even boating, areas where we can get access to the river. As Tony said, the walls won't prevent that, but while the Army Corps won't fund it, the village can do other things and find other grants and fund other projects to add walking paths, add fishing docks, add other little platforms or access points where people can get to and from the rivers.
So are there properties that don't flood that are subject to work and easements, either permanent or temporary?
Yes. So the point that Tony made is we estimated about 100 properties along the river that are subject to possible easements, because the Army Corps will either need a work access agreement to get in and out where they're going to do the river work, or they're going to need an easement to realign the river. Now, we've talked to the Army Corps. Again, we haven't hit design phase. We haven't hit even a survey to figure out where those river channels are going to be. But they said we will do everything in our power to minimize the impact on the homeowner, make sure they're fairly compensated, and that we move the channel as far away from their home so they don't lose a house or a structure, or even their yard.
Or even their yard.
Yes.
I guess one of the questions that comes up is, why should residents whose properties don't flood support this plan? What would you say is in it for them?
I look at three big things. One is you're shutting down the village. Whenever we have a major flood, the village, especially at the center down by the train, is shut down. The roads are impassable. You can't get fire trucks, police cars, emergency vehicles. You can't get basic services through. You can't pick up the garbage. So even if the flood may only last for a day, the recovery from it takes weeks and sometimes even months. 2007, recovery from 2007, the nor'easter, took several months, if not more than a year. We're still rebuilding damage that occurred from Hurricane Sandy. And then finally, the loss of value and other damage to properties, by improving all these properties and reducing their flood risk, you're going to reduce flood insurance, you're going to raise their property values, which means the other residents in the village will have their values redistributed more equally around the community. Okay. And reduce other people's taxes.
We actually have an email question.
Okay.
Someone's wondering whether the Army Corps of Engineers will do the same presentation that they did for the HCZMC at the Village Board of Trustees meeting this coming Monday.
We had asked the Army Corps to see if they would send a contingent back to the Board of Trustees this Monday. They haven't gotten that approval, and because the meeting was 5 hours long this past Thursday, I think it's probably not likely, but we will put all the information together that the Army Corps provided to us this past week. We will have our consultants from Chase and Associates there, and all the village staff and other people will be there to answer any questions people may have.
Are you encouraging people to come to this meeting? Is it a public hearing?
It's a public meeting.
Is it a public hearing?
It's not a public hearing. It's a public meeting. Anybody's welcome to attend. So if people haven't made comment or do want to make comment, they're welcome. They're certainly welcome to attend.
Okay. How do you get more information other than going to Monday's meeting?
The best two places to get more information are either on the village website under our flood study, or go to the Army Corps of Engineers. If you Google Army Corps of Engineers Mamaroneck, it'll come right up. It'll take you to the page. You can find whatever document you want.
Okay. Well, thank you, Richard, Tony, for joining us. And you all stay tuned. The Local Live will be back with more community stories and, of course, the answer to the trivia question.
Argentinian students studying at Iona College joined the Local Live production team last week. The students and their 3 teachers are part of a media camp focusing on mass communications. The Local Live's Mike Witch caught up with a few of them this week at the college TV studio.
I'm here with our guests from Argentina, La Plata, Argentina, and sitting right next to me is Marshall, the teacher from La Plata.
From La Plata, Argentina.
From the school, we have the logo right over my shoulder. This is the Lincoln School, or Colegio Lincoln. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Colegio Lincoln. That's the pronunciation.
And 3 students. We have Tadeo and Mika, and Juan.
Hi.
Welcome. I have questions for you, but I first want to ask you, this is your first year at the media camp. What are your impressions so far?
Yeah, this is my first time here. I've enjoyed this immensely. I didn't know what to expect exactly from the United States and also from the media camp. And it's very, very well organized. The kids are enjoying this immensely, and they've not only have they learned I mean, about media, about
Journalism.
journalism, but they have also made a lot of contacts and, you know, like different cities, socializing with people, you know, with different kids from France, Brazil, and American people as well.
Who are also staying here at the college?
Two other teachers, Laura Bucaco and Florencia Izquierdo.
So let me ask you students, what is the first message that you sent back home when you arrived here at the campus?
The first message I sent, I texted my mom telling that everything was okay and that the plane didn't crash.
And Mika, Micah?
Well, the first thing I said, I sent a message to my mom and I told her I was exhausted and starving, but that it was a really nice place.
Juan?
I think the first message is that hi, I'm alive. It's all really beautiful. I love being here. Thank you. I don't know.
What is the purpose of the media camp is not only to study about media, but also to practice your English. Marcel, are they practicing their English enough for you? You're an English teacher at the school.
Yeah. They are practicing it, and they are also applying what we've learned, or what we learned before in Argentina, because we dealt with information and different vocabulary, either social things or, you know, media or advertising, and they are applying it here. And every day I see that they are learning more and more, and for us this is just a great honor.
Now you're doing a program, you're doing a video show in La Plata in your school called Lincoln News. And are all three of you involved in Lincoln News?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? And that's modeled after something that your teacher, Kyle Byrne, produced here at Iona College called Inside Iona.
Yes, it is. We are having this little show at school. It's like a news report that has a show monthly. And what we try to do is like show not only the things that happen at school, but also important things that are happening at our country, or like stuff that that matters to everybody.
Yes. Are you in front of the camera or behind the camera?
Well, we get to choose. I mean, at first I was in front of the camera, but then I started working behind the cameras and trying new things.
You directed a show too, didn't you?
I did. Yeah.
Yes. Did you like that?
Yeah, it was more difficult than what I thought. But
Juan, do you like in front or behind the camera?
I have been the director for science since the first show, but now I'm in front of the camera because I want to experience in front of the camera, back the camera. I don't know. I prefer back camera.
Now, the reason I'm getting to do an interview with you is because I conducted a video workshop with you here in this very studio. So, no pressure, but which workshop do you like the best? TV or journalism or advertising, or which one do you like the best?
I really enjoyed the radio workshop because it was something new. I mean, I really enjoyed the TV workshop too, but it was something I was more used to because of the TV show we had back home. But I wasn't like expecting anything from the radio show, and when I got to experience it, it was like shocking. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yes, same reaction? Well, which workshop, I should ask again. Which workshop did you like?
Okay, for me, there were two new experiences, which I really enjoyed, both of them. But I think I found myself more comfortable in doing radio because, I mean, you don't have to
you
face
don't have
the
to
camera,
appear on camera, yes.
And you're just talking and asking questions. I think that's really good.
Juan, do you have a radio show in La Plata now?
Yes, we have it, but I don't participate in that show. I participate in the TV show as the director, and here the workshop I like is the animation workshop. I love working with computers, so that's why I like that workshop.
So did you meet many American teenagers while you were here? So far, you've only been here 1 week. You have one more week to go. Have you met American teenagers?
Yes, we met a football team, a generation football team from Pelham, the city next to New Rochelle.
Yes.
We talked to them, and they are really nice. They are really nice people. We have a lot of fun. We play a soccer match, and then we have dinner with them, with pizzas, and we have a really good time.
Are they just like you? Are they the same? Do they worry about things just like you do?
Yes, and I would probably like to say that we won the match.
Yeah, you beat them.
You won the match.
Yeah.
So let me finish then with you, Marshall. Do you think the media camp is going to continue next year and the years after?
Yeah, I think it will indeed. This is the third year, and I think there's going to be a fourth one for sure. Because every year there are more and more students coming, and I think everything they do here, they can see it live, and they can see it when we get back in Argentina, and they really, really like it, and parents enjoy it a lot. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, and it was a pleasure to talk to you all, and I hope to work with you again next year, and there's more Local Live coming right up.
Looking for your child to have a great summer? Sign them up for LMC-TV's Teen Filmmaking Workshop. Young people 12 and up have an opportunity to film, star, and direct in their own movies. Check out last year's participants. Don't let your teen miss out on a fun, productive summer. Sign them up today. LMC-TV, your community connection.
Billie Jean is an adult female pit bull terrier who enjoys walks, playing with her tennis balls, and snuggling. She is house-trained and looking for a loving home. For more information on Billie Jean or to browse other adorable pets, go to www.humanesocietyofwestchester.org.
Remember, if you'd like to keep us on the air, support our program by checking out the website at www.lmctv.org and click on the donate button in the upper right. We really appreciate any contribution.
We're always welcoming new interns and volunteers, so send your emails to the local live at lmctv.org and join us. We love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching. I'm James Levinson.
And I'm Ashley Ballone. See you next week for another episode of The Local Live.
Go.